Hello and welcome to another update. This is going to be a combined update. Both updates were posted on my blog at shackledbarefeet.wordpress.com. I tend to post a lot more there than I do here, so if you want to follow me, be sure to go there. Also, when I'm imprisoned at Facility 5, I will no longer be posting to this channel. All videos will be posted to the new Facility 5 channel, and I also created a Twitter page for Facility 5. There won't be anything posted there until I am imprisoned at Facility 5, but be sure to follow both of those links posted down in the description below. Click on them and follow me if you don't want to miss out on all the fun stuff while I'm imprisoned at Facility 5. So as you can see here, I'm chained, as I am every day pretty much. And I had a request for toe cuffs again, so here they are. To start this vlog, I will go over all that has changed with my shackling and enslavement under contract with my girlfriend. I say enslavement because it's definitely gone far beyond the original goal of the contract, which was to maintain my shackling until I am imprisoned at Facility 5. If you haven't followed my previous videos, I started a permanent shackling contract with a friend, which was later taken over by my ex-girlfriend. She returned to being my girlfriend at the time and moved in to enforce my permanent shackling. And to be honest, she failed in that task. I was released after being shackled for 70 days of my 100-day goal. Things went downhill from there. She was supposed to return me to permanent shackles, but instead gave me more and more freedom. This eventually went to my head, and I turned back into the quote-unquote jerk that she broke up with before. Her words, not mine. We broke up again, and I went on without shackles for a little while. Even though she was no longer enforcing my shackling, she was still bound by contract to be my third party during my imprisonment at Facility 5 when a cell comes available. Then Facility 5 sent her and me an offer to have me imprisoned on standby, something that I did not want to do and still don't today. But since we were in a bad relationship, she took charge and told me that I was going and that I had no choice. She, of course, was very right. As third party in my contract with Facility 5, and the power of attorney that I've signed gives her complete ownership over me for the purpose of imprisonment, and she has legal right to have me arrested, transported by third party, and imprisoned on standby without my consent. In fact, to go further, if I resist that arrest, I can actually be charged with real charges of resisting arrest and actually spend time in a real prison. So it's for sure. If she decides I go to prison on standby, I go to prison on standby. There's no option for me. So realizing that I lost that battle totally, I instantly backtracked and proposed that we renew our original contract requiring me to be shackled and that she would move back in. She was having issues with a roommate at the time, so it worked out for her as well. She made it very clear that things would be very different this second time around and that freedom would not exist. I instantly became a flight risk in her mind. So she immediately confiscated all my shoes and socks and disposed of them. And so I'd remain barefoot until my release from prison or possibly longer. The shackles would be permanent again, and she started me off with heavy-duty secure shackles that were impossible to remove without the special key. And she took the key and left me locked in those right from that moment on. But those shackles proved to be far too heavy for long-term wear, and I was returned to the shackles that I had worn for several months before, this time bolted rather than riveted, so that I could have up to 1 hour of freedom per week to allow for life-related situations to be resolved. And also so she could drag me barefoot to places that would embarrass me, which of course she did. The first time I experienced freedom from the shackles, she dragged me all over the city with bare feet, starting in a lower level of a filthy parking structure, ending with a movie theater where I left black footprints with every step on sticky, polished concrete floors. That was an all-day event. That was the last time that I was out of shackles for longer than an hour. And after that, winter came, and the ground being icy and snowy, I've been permanently shackled ever since. Since I don't have shoes anymore, and I can't go barefoot in snow and ice. That's my only option, is to stay home and be shackled. I'm actually a bit surprised on how strict she's stuck with the rules. not only stuck with them, but she's actually gotten far more strict. The power has clearly gone to her head at this point, and she's having fun with it. And to be honest, I'm having a little fun with it most of the time. I mean, sometimes it's not very fun. I'll go into that. But at this point, she's taken it far beyond the goal of imprisonment and has taken it to complete enslavement. She uses the excuse that she has to keep me under control and obedience is required, but she's clearly doing this because it turns her on. And she knows how to control me now, using threats of being arrested and imprisoned on standby immediately, or implementing punishments. Completely enslaved now. I have no options. She tells me what to do, and I do it without hesitation. She has never wavered on her plans to have me arrested, transported, and imprisoned on standby. It is a certainty that she has every intention of doing so, and she reminds me every day that I am lucky to be chained up at home one more day rather than on my way to prison. She's been very strict about security and has considered me a flight risk from the moment I made it clear that I didn't want to be imprisoned on standby. From that moment on, she's had me on high security, and that level of security has only gotten stricter as we get closer to the time of my imprisonment. She has maintained at the very least that I will serve a minimum of 2 to 3 months in punishment cell on standby, since the designated cells aren't expected to open until late spring or early summer. The 2 to 3 month trigger is coming as soon as next month. She enabled surveillance a few months ago so that she can view me live on her phone when not at home, and recently she has made tethering mandatory. Now, tethering, as she refers to it, is a long chain that is padlocked to a support beam in the basement. Before she leaves the house every morning, she wraps the other end of the chain around my ankle and locks it with a heavy-duty padlock. And I remain chained like that, sometimes hours after she returns from home. As you can see, that's the chain that I'm wearing right now. I basically wear this every day. She has also implemented stricter punishments to maintain obedience and control. She no longer accepts anything less than complete enslavement at this point. I do whatever she tells me to do, when she tells me to do it, or I get punished. These punishments include toe cuffs like I'm wearing now, long-term wearing of handcuffs. The handcuffs she makes me wear have a 6-inch chain, so I have a little bit of freedom there, but sometimes through the night, through the next day, there's no limit to how long I can have those on. And tethering is being used as a punishment a lot more lately, not just for security, but punishment. She'll chain me like when she wants time alone, because I'm chained in the basement, she's upstairs. She'll chain me just for the hell of it, basically. So I'm spending a lot of time with this chain wrapped around my ankle. Bastinado, something we played with once, but decided that it was far too harsh because of the excruciating pain. But now it's back on the table, but with less force. So instead of hitting hard, she spreads it out over a longer period of time. So literally the past few weeks, I've gone to bed with sore feet at least 2 or 3 times a week. Privacy is gone, starting with the Wi-Fi cameras, which made me nervous from the start since we're supposed to be keeping my shackling a secret from friends and family. I was worried that others would see the live feed on her phone, and that is exactly what happened. To emulate standing detention in the prison, where prisoners are often kept standing on the footprint authentication panel, sometimes for hours without being released, she has started training me by forcing me to stand with my feet apart on the concrete down in the basement. I'm not allowed to lift 1 foot until she gives me permission. Sometimes she leaves me standing like that for an hour or longer. So apparently while she had me in this standing detention, while chained to the support beam while she was at work, she was watching the video feed, keeping a close eye on my feet to make sure that I hadn't moved them, trying to determine that if I had moved them while she was on her lunch. She was trying to determine if my feet had moved, so she was concentrating on it, and one of her friends walked up behind her, saw the video, grabbed her phone, and passed it around the table. So all of her friends knew about it and were watching me for weeks before I was told. So rather than just coming home and telling me and apologizing after her friends have been watching me for weeks, she arrived home after going out for drinks with her friends and brought them right to me to see me in person, chained and shackled. And the secret was out at that point. And being molested by 5 drunk girls that night was not really on my list of favorite things. So, of course, this made me really angry and very embarrassed, but because they had already seen me on camera for weeks prior to that, it became more normalized with them before I even knew about it, and it quickly became a good thing because I no longer have to hide when her friends visit, and they seem to be very excited about it. So it makes me feel special, and my girlfriend is really turned on by the master and slave thing when they're around. So as soon as they leave, it means a lot of sex for me. But they visit almost every night now, and my girlfriend shows off her power by forcing me to do to be their slave basically while they're visiting, including massaging and kissing their feet, which I kind of enjoy now. Her friends have really cute feet. So a lot has changed in such a short time, most of it for the better. My girlfriend is right. As soon as I get any bit of freedom, it goes right to my head. So as long as she keeps me under complete enslavement, I fit right into exactly what she wants, and since I'm happy when she's happy, it seems to be working out pretty well. And to be honest, I'm going to miss it when I go to prison. Like I said, it's not all good, but it's fun as a whole. And of course, as long as I'm not in a punishment cell under standby imprisonment, I'm getting off easy. And she reminds me of that on a daily basis. But on to my eventual imprisonment under standby. My girlfriend gave me the opportunity to raise funds for extension. If I can raise enough money without taking charity, to complement my current savings to pay for another 90 days, making my sentence 6 months before she puts me in under standby, I can avoid standby imprisonment. This is the first and only time that she's ever even suggested another option to being arrested and transported and imprisoned on standby, so I ran with it. I created a shirt based on the official Facility 5 shirt that staff members wear in the prison, with enough of a difference to the footprint logo to avoid copyright violation. Since my girlfriend won't allow me to take donations, the funds made from the sales of that shirt will go towards my extended imprisonment. So I urge you, if you haven't already, please click the link below to buy a shirt. You'll be helping to extend my imprisonment at Facility 5 and possibly save me from being arrested, transported, and imprisoned on standby for 3 months. My girlfriend has already pointed out as well that some people that watch this vlog may want me to go in under standby imprisonment. Just be aware that I won't be able to record anything while I'm on standby. I won't be able to record the vlog until I'm actually in a prison cell. But if you want to buy a shirt and support the extension of my imprisonment, but you don't agree with me missing or skipping the standby imprisonment, you can put that in a note. Just let me know, and then she will take that from what's considered savings towards that. So it won't be counted, basically. It will be used to extend my imprisonment at Facility 5, but it won't be counted towards the amount required before she puts me into standby imprisonment. But of course, if you're not sadistic and cruel, then just buy a shirt so that I don't have to be locked up in a punishment cell for several months before a designated cell comes available. So on the subject of my standby imprisonment and my future imprisonment at Facility 5 in general, this is the second update that was posted to my blog. Go read it at shackledbarefeet.wordpress.com. In fact, that might not be there anymore, to be honest. I did get a message from my contact in the prison. Some of the information that I posted there was not supposed to be posted, so I'm going to talk about it in this video because it's a lot less searchable, quote unquote, but it might not be on the blog anymore, so just be aware. I might repost it with some of that information removed, I don't know. But anyway, rumors of major changes are coming to Facility 5. And now, these are only rumors, and there's no way of confirming them at this point. But because Facility 5's strict policy on secrecy, nobody in the prison knows what's going on. Nobody outside the prison knows what's going on. But as a business person, I can say that they would be stupid if they didn't make these changes, to be honest. So the rumors started almost a year ago. with someone claiming that they had converted an entire cell block for what they call plural imprisonment. This is huge because the prison hasn't had more than one prisoner per cell since the early days of Facility 2, which turned out to be a terrible situation for prisoners and guards, and it was a huge mess. They were packing way too many prisoners to each cell, and it caused a lot of problems. So right now, all of the cells in the prison have two bunks, but it's rare that more than one prisoner is assigned to one cell. There have been partnered imprisonments before, but it's really rare. And of course, prisoners can visit other prisoners and they stay in that cell with them for temporary periods of time, anywhere from 2 days to 7 days, under what they call PPV, or prison pal visitation. A silly name, I know, but whatever. So those bunks do get used when visitors are in those cells. These new plural cells go one step further, though, having been converted to hold 4 prisoners to a cell. Supposedly, these cells have been filled for over a year now, which seems a little far-fetched because a standard cell block is 20 cells. That would be 80 prisoners in one cell block. But then again, the prison segregates prisoners so that we're all separated by cell blocks. Even in the community server, prisoners only have communication with other prisoners in their own cell block and limited communication with surrounding cell blocks. I mean, I'm sure they do this so that prisoners aren't, uniting against the staff, basically, because you only have access to so many prisoners. You're not broadcasting prison wide, basically. It also makes it harder to spread rumors, but this rumor is a pretty big one, and if true, it affects everyone in the prison as well as prisoners who have not been imprisoned yet, that being me. I find it very interesting, and even if it's not true, I have to take it pretty seriously. Now, the rumor states that these plural cells, being referred to as quad cells, because they house 4 prisoners, will be reserved for involuntary prisoners. Now, this is the official classification in the prison. You have voluntary imprisonment and involuntary imprisonment, which is a bit misleading because everyone signs a contract or multiple contracts agreeing to be imprisoned. So no one is forced to be in prison at Facility 5. In fact, you have to pay to be there. So no one's being forced to be locked up at Facility 5, believe me, which makes all prisoners voluntary, technically. The distinction is that voluntary prisoners are those who actively seek to be imprisoned, often saving their own money and enlisting a friend or loved one to act as their trusted third party to maintain their imprisonment. While involuntary imprisonment involves a person who has only agreed to be imprisoned as a form of punishment for a wrong that they have committed usually against their third party, which takes control of their imprisonment for the purpose of implementing that punishment. These classifications are written into every contract, and there are some immediate differences. Involuntary prisoners are automatically placed under permanent shackling. Their third party must opt them out of permanent shackles, or they're automatically permanently shackled. Voluntary prisoners have to opt in to have permanent shackles, and I'm actually classified as voluntary because I want to be imprisoned. However, I'm going to be permanently shackled because of my previous experience and because of the 70 days that I spent in shackles, plus all this time that I'm shackled after that. Originally, this was signed while I was on that 70-day period, so that's why I mentioned that. But because the administration at Facility 5 made it a requirement as part of my vlogging agreement, they have a strict rule for prisoners who are expected to leave their cells regularly. All prisoners that leave their cells on a regular basis must be permanently shackled, such as all the prisoners who work under the prison labor services. So it's actually prison policy. If you leave your cell often, you have to be permanently shackled. And since it's possible, if I get permission to interview other prisoners, I could be going to their cell to interview them, so they insisted that I be permanently shackled while I'm imprisoned there. However, because my girlfriend will be imprisoning me under standby imprisonment, I will automatically be reclassified as involuntary and will remain with that classification throughout my imprisonment. And that's the other difference between voluntary and involuntary prisoners. Voluntary prisoners go on the wait list and are sometimes offered standby, like as I was. Involuntary prisoners have no wait list. They are immediately imprisoned on standby. They have no option to go on wait list. This, of course, makes sense because if you cheat on your wife, beat your kids, and run over the family dog while drunk, your wife gives you the option of being punished by being imprisoned for a year or divorce, which would lose you everything. You don't want them sitting around waiting a year or longer to get into a cell. Those prisoners sign and go directly into a punishment cell for several months before being moved into a designated cell. And this is where quad cells would be a huge upside. If you haven't heard my rant about the torture of being locked in a punishment cell for months, being enslaved by other prisoners to avoid more time in those punishment cells, you should go back and listen or read about what it's like in a punishment cell. It's definitely not what I want to do. So if implemented, the new program would place involuntary prisoners as well as voluntary prisoners who go in on standby, like me, would spend the usual week in quarantine, like all prisoners do, which is a punishment cell, but would be moved directly into a quad cell rather than spending several months in that punishment cell. And they'd be put in a quad cell with up to 3 other prisoners. Well, I don't think it's going to be that. The quality of life in a quad cell is going to be pretty low. But it's not nowhere near being locked in a punishment cell for several months. So this is far better, believe me. Punishers being packed 4 deep into a cell is millions of times better than being locked in a punishment cell on standby for several months. So it's a huge upside on that part. The next upside, this change would be huge for voluntary prisoners who are on the long wait list, because of every quad cell opens up 3 regular cells, because they're moving 3 prisoners out of regular cells into one cell that's already occupied by 1 prisoner. So for every quad cell, 3 cells come available for those that are on the wait list. And that would empty out the wait list. More than half of the prison is involuntary at this point. It also means huge profits for the prison. Now, of course, they're not going to charge full price for quad imprisonment. That would be a fraud, basically, because if you paid for a cell, a single occupant cell, and you're being packed in with 3 other prisoners, that's not good for business. So the cost, supposedly, if this goes through, will be 1/3 the cost. So they're still making like 4/3 the money on each one of those cells. Of course, they have to feed the prisoners and all that stuff. So, and it adds a little bit more security issue having 4 prisoners in one cell. So, they're probably offsetting that a little bit. So they're making more money off the quad cells right off the bat. And they're opening up the standard cells for more prisoners to come in. So they're basically, I don't know the math. I don't know how many prisoners will be moved or, whatever, how many cells they'll be converting if they do this. But they're probably going to make more than double profits by doing this. So they'll basically be doubling, maybe even tripling the prison population. Now, this could go either way for me personally. Either I'm imprisoned on standby and then I'm moved into a quad cell when that goes live, because I am classified as involuntary at that point. Or they implement this before I'm imprisoned on standby and suddenly cells become available for me to move into. So for me, it's actually a good thing. Whether they, I hope they implement it before my girlfriend puts me in on standby, because that means I'll be going into prison early in a cell, a standard cell, and won't have to spend time in those punishment cells. But the problem is that because of the reduced cost of imprisonment means longer sentences for those in quad cells. So quality of life drops along with the cost of imprisonment, which will equal longer sentences for prisoners who are already being punished. But because of this issue, you can't just, decide universally that all these prisoners are going to be packed into, quad cells after they've already paid and agreed to be in single cells. The prison will not move any voluntary prisoners into quad cells without full agreement. Now, of course, this agreement has nothing to do with the prisoners agreeing. Okay, the prisoners have no choices in the prison. Everything is to do with the third party agreement. So rumor has it that marketing will offer the promotion to the third parties of all involuntary prisoners. It will include double sentence and a refund. So that means that prisoners who have a third party who agrees to have them put in a quad cell, whatever's left on their current sentence will get doubled. So they have a year left on their sentence. They're now going to spend 2 years in a quad cell. And their third party will get a payout. So it's kind of a win-win for the third party if they want their prisoner to continue being imprisoned, and they get paid on top of it. And of course, being 1/3 the cost from that point forward, it makes it a lot easier for third parties to extend their punishment for longer than previously agreed. I mean, I have to feel bad for the prisoners that are involuntary at this point, if this goes through, because their quality of life is going to drop, and they may serve much longer sentences than they originally expected. I mean, a lot of those prisoners are probably thinking, oh, well, my wife can't afford to pay for my imprisonment beyond this date or whatever. Or, a wife. Women are put in there under involuntary as well. Women cheat just as much as men, apparently. So, a woman could be in there, on 1 year for punishment and thinking, oh, well, her husband's not going to pay the exorbitant fees to keep me in prison for another year. But now she's automatically being given an extra year because of the exchange. He's getting a payout, and now, the following years are going to be cheaper for him to keep her locked up. But if the prison does implement this quad cell program, and they go after involuntaries, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll stop there. There is also speculation that once they go after the involuntary prisoners, they'll go after the voluntary prisoners with dual capacity program. And this will drastically reduce the cost of imprisonment for voluntary prisoners by what I'm guessing is a little over half the current cost. And also doubling their sentences without any payout to third party. 2 prisoners will share a standard cell. And this move would make perfect sense since they are already converting many cells into what they call luxury cells. These renovated cells are far more comfortable and are packed with technology. So if the prison moves in this direction, they will end up with a 3-tier system. Third-class prisoners packed 4 to a cell, mostly consisting of prisoners who are being punished by the third party, maybe a few voluntary prisoners who can't afford imprisonment at the higher rates. The new standard imprisonment at a little over half the cost, making it cheaper to be imprisoned, with negative aspect of having to share a cell with a complete stranger, while the first-class prisoners will have a higher premium on to live in the more comfortable luxury cell with no cellmate, most likely at a higher cost. And like I said, I kind of feel bad saying this because it's definitely a move towards a lower quality of life for just about everyone in the prison, while giving privilege to prisoners who can afford an expensive cell. But they would be stupid if they did not do this. It's a massive boost in profits. It empties the wait list, and it abolishes the horrible standby imprisonment. Punishment cells go back to being used for punishment instead of a halfway house that tortures prisoners for months while they wait for a cell to come available. And if this does actually go through, it starts to make sense why they suddenly, after decades of strict non-disclosure and reportedly ruining people's lives who break the NDA, to allow me to suddenly start reporting on the prison and eventually report on what life is like while imprisoned through heavy censorship, of course. Yes, they will be censoring my vlog, and I won't be able to post without approval. So they are keeping things under control, but the idea of them even allowing at all, any of this is a massive change in the policy. And it would make perfect sense now if these rumors are correct. They will want to fill those open spaces on the wait list with prisoners who have received invites and either couldn't afford it or were on the fence on whether they wanted to be imprisoned or not. Now they can watch my future vlog and see what it's like being imprisoned from the perspective of an actual prisoner and make a more informed decision. And not only that, it kind of reduces the shadiness, because the prison is so secretive and the NDAs are so secretive. I mean, I understand the purpose of that, but some people may think, well, maybe this is a trap. Maybe they're secret because they're operating with, under the law or something. Now, having me vlog from the prison, it kind of opens it up. It makes it more accessible. People that may be on the fence can see what it's like. It might even be better for me if this actually goes through. It's likely that they will want to promote the luxury cells, obviously, because those are going to be more expensive ones if all this happens, which means that I might get upgraded to a luxury cell at no additional charge, so that my vlog can show how great it is in a luxury cell, right? So if that's the case, I really hope it goes through. If they put me in the luxury cell, screw everyone else. Wife beaters, bitches that cheat on their husbands, they can all go live cramped in a quad cell as long as I get my luxury cell, right? Well, that's it. I'm gonna finish off by shamelessly plugging my fundraiser again. Whether it keeps me from spending months in a punishment cell on standby imprisonment or extends my imprisonment in a luxury cell, when this rumor turns out to be true, please help me reach either goal by purchasing a shirt. Just think, every time you wear it, you will know that you were responsible for extending my imprisonment while you watch me living in a cell through my regular vlog. And hopefully, if I'm in there long enough and I can get the petition done, I'll be able to interview other prisoners, so you'll see other prisoners as well. So it's for a good cause, for the most part. So click on the link below, buy a t-shirt. Sorry I haven't been posting as much on this channel, but I just haven't really felt it. There hasn't been a lot going on, and then when it all added up, kind of in a short period of time, I decided I was just going to throw this one out. And of course now it's reaching 32 minutes almost. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching my feet chained and toe cuffed. Now I'm going to be wearing this chain for the rest of the day, but the toe cuffs are going to come off because they really hurt my toes. They're very tight. I don't know if you can tell, but they're super tight. And they're not comfortable to wear for long term. And that's why my girlfriend uses them as punishment. But anyway, I'm not being punished now, so the toe cuffs come off, and be sure to follow me on the shackledbarefeet.wordpress.com. Follow the new channel, Facility 5. The link is below. Also my Twitter. Those will not be updated until I'm actually in prison. So if you just want to follow the prison part of it, that's where you'll need to go, because I will not be posting any of that stuff here or at my other blog. It's all going to be restricted to the Facility 5 property. So anyway, I'm going to leave this on for just a little bit, doing the, as I do on my newest videos, the whole ASMR thing, which was a request. I'm not sure there's much ASMR here since there's no sound, pretty much. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Be sure to like, comment, share, and have fun.